Everybody seems to be very interested in the Hall and Scott, which I can understand. My special building started when I was 14 years old. My mum bought me an Austin 7 and I built a special. And by the time I was 17, it was on the road and I used to drive it. And we used to go to North Wales weekends after work. On Saturday we'd go all the way up to North Wales and stay in a tent overnight. And so I really, you know, it was a special, but I really used it. So special building is not unusual for me. So anyway, so I'm walking around Bewley, which I love Bewley. I mean, it's my holiday, I consider. So I'm walking around Bewley and I see the Hall and Scott engine. Now, I'd never thought about a Hall and Scott engine. I didn't know even, I don't think I even knew what a Hall and Scott engine was at that stage. Anyway, I see this lovely engine on a green stand, and I walked home to the bloke and I said, "Oh, that's a knockout." He said, yeah. He said, "I bought a vintage aeroplane from somebody in America, and in the shed, this was in the shed, so I bought it." So anyway, I said to him, "How much is it?" And he said a price. And it had 3 rockers missing, which are quite complicated because they're roller rockers and what have you. So, you know, they weren't 10 minutes to make, but anyway. So anyway, I chipped him a bit, and I said, "Right, I'll have it," on the spot. Didn't mess about. Actually, there was a bloke standing there watching, and when I said, "Yeah, all right, I'll have it," I put my hand in my pocket, and in Bewley, you've always got a little bit of money because you've always sold odd little bits. And I gave him a very sizable deposit, and that was it. Anyway, this bloke apparently was standing there trying to make his mind up, and he said, "Oh, I was interested in buying that." So I didn't say to him, "Well, you're too late, mate," but anyway, we bought it. So now I've got the engine. So luckily, we're in a lorry at Bewley, so put it in the lorry, bring it up. 3 rockers missing. I kept looking at them and talking to various people about rockers and things. And anyway, I had this young girl work for me. She was good on a computer. So I said to her, "Right, I need 3 rockers." She didn't even know what a rocker was. But anyway, she gets on the internet and she decides to put an advert in Barnstormers, which, you know, really is quite clever, really. I didn't guide her or anything. Anyway, so she puts the advert in. Bloke gets in touch and says, "Yes, I can supply you with 3 rockers. Send me some money." So we sent him $1,500. And it was in New Mexico, which really, that should have been a bit of a clue, really. But anyway, no rockers, no bloke, done our money. So anyway, she then gets onto the magazine, again, all on her own back, and says to them, "Look, you know, we're not complaining, but this bloke in New Mexico is a bit of a crook, and we've had nothing back from him, and, you know, so if any of your people, you know, you can warn them." So anyway, the bloke says, "Oh, what are you looking for?" So she said 3 rockers, and he said, "Oh," he said, "you got to speak to Spike." So anyway, she gets on to Spike, sends him an email and says, "You know, we need 3 rockers." And he comes back and says, "Well, can't find you 3 rockers, but I know where there's a whole engine." So anyway, in the end, cut a long story short, we bought the whole engine, which was really good. It was a good engine. And it had a Stutz twin ignition Delco distributor on the engine that came from America. So anyway, we're looking at it all and trying to decide what to make. And I've been to see this man in Spain who was very keen on Hispanos, and he had quite a lot of stuff and cars and what have you. So I looked in my book, because he actually sponsored this book apparently, and he gave me the book about Hispanos, which is a beautiful book. God knows what that must have cost, but anyway, so he gives me a thing. So I know I've got it, so I start looking at it, and I come across Hispanos. Well, there's the Alfonso, and there was a racing car. And this is the book. This is a lovely book, all about Hispanos. Hispanos from 1899 to 1915, which of course is the dead right year. So anyway, so I'm looking through it, and I came across that picture. So initially, that was the car I was going to build. So that was that. or I was going to build that one. And I thought both of them would be fabulous. But obviously I'd have to collect the rest of it. So by now, I'm really into this. So I say to Julian, my mate, what's the best book for pictures? He said, oh, you've got to get Tessa Matheson's Grand Prix from 1906 to 1914.
Okay.
So I buy the book, and of course, there's pictures of Peugeots winning. I mean, that's a fabulous picture. And I think I know where that bridge is, actually. So of course, the minute you start reading about the famous Peugeot that won everything, of course, you immediately pick up on the Charlatans. So now I've got a connection with the Charlatans. So then, luckily, I've got this book, Motor Racing Memories, 1903 to 1921, by Mr. Bradley. I think it's William, Anyway, Mr. Bradley. And there's a whole chapter about the Charlatans. Now this chapter, this thing here, really resonated with me because, I left no school with no education. I mean, if I'd have had to have sat down and said, right, write me a full essay on a Bugatti or whatever, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But luckily I met David Hyman. He's a real, although he had plenty of money and he was very well educated, he was a real man of the world. He'd done it all, Anyway, so that was that. And then I did say to him, I said, oh, David, I'm really pleased you stuck with me because I'm sure there were people in the Bugatti Owners Clubs would say, you don't know nothing about Bugattis. He said, Ivan, they said to me, you didn't know anything about anything. So anyway, he stuck with me. So the Charlatans, to a certain extent, resonates with me because there's three racing drivers, basically, racing little voiturettes. And they decide somehow or other to get the money. Georgiou goes to Mr. Peugeot. Mr. Peugeot says, I'll think about it. In the end, he sponsors them, but he doesn't want anything to do with the factory because all the people there are obviously proper qualified engineers. So anyway, he sponsors them. Now, a lot of people have said the man Henry, who drew it
Ernst
all,
Henry,
they all sort of said, oh yeah, well, it wasn't the Charlatans. Well, I think it was, and I think Henry played his part. But as far as I can see, having read lots more about them now, they was a real team of good blokes. Nobody was trying to shine more than the others. They got on and got the job done. Now, building the car, they'd have got to the people at the front axles. The people made in Paris, there was all sorts of firms, so it would have been, right, we want an axle like that, yeah, that'd be right, blah, blah, blah. And the chassis and the back axle and the gearbox, I'm convinced they just bought them because there was enough firms to be able to supply them. But what they did do, they designed a fabulous engine. Now, I think what happened there was exactly like me. When I get involved in something, I'm involved. When I decided to go motor racing, I didn't think about anything else. And I look at everything really carefully, So they'd have seen motorbikes in them days, what the competitions that they'd already done with voiturettes. There'd have been motorbikes they looked at. There was bound to be a 4-valve motorbike. There was bound to be a dry sump motorbike. So all of that stuff is in their mind. Well, that old motorbike went well, that's got 4 valves, and look, it's got dry sump, that's good, makes it very reliable. So when they come to design this car, they used all the things they'd seen. They hadn't worked out on a bit of paper and done a load of maths, because they didn't do that. So they did what a lot of people have done since then. So the Charlatans, really rang the bell with me. I thought, oh, what a load of good blokes, I'd love to have seen all that. And Mr. Bradley was actually there. So when he writes that story there, he ain't copied it from another book. I'm sure he was there and he spoke to him. So that was really good. So that was the thing, the Charlatans. So now I start looking at Peugeots. Now, finding anything to do with Peugeots is not easy. But I managed to buy a few bits. I had a Star back axle, which if you look at the axle in the car, is exactly the same. So the next step then is finding out about Peugeots. The Lawrence Pomeroy book about Grand Prix cars is a fabulous book. Again, you know, very lucky to have these various books, but the ones I didn't have I bought on YouTube. So there's this fabulous
eBay,
book.
maybe.
Not only telling you all about the engine, but with a pull-out thing, giving the sizes of the thing exactly as it all is. Now, if you look at my car, the front axle looks exactly like that. The steering arm's like that. We had to make the steering arm to look like that. The shock absorbers, well, I found the shock absorbers at Bewley, and they were really long, so we chopped them off, made a couple of bosses, MIG-welded it on and folded it all up. So those shock absorbers, that front axle which I bought from Albert, which I reckon came off...
Who's Albert?
He's a bloke in the vintage club who has bits, you know, and he's from North Country, you know. Oh, yes, Mr. Dutton, I think I might have one of those. Anyway, next thing you know, Albert sends me a front axle, exactly right, which I think probably came off an American car, and we made that steering arm, and we had to sort the hubs out. So, luckily I had some Bentley bits, so we sorted the hubs out. We used Bentley... what they call them, hubs. So that's how we did the front suspension. And then you look at the car, the dry sump tank's there. So I bought a Maserati dry sump tank from a bloke who, I should know his name, but I've forgotten. I cut all the good bits off it, you know, all the fittings and everything, and we made that tank, and we mounted it on brackets. Hopefully I'm going to take the car to bits so you can see all this, but the brackets were... running board brackets, and we filed them up and all. I tell you, they look like they've been on there for 100 years. They look perfect. So the back axle is a star back axle. I mean, it really looks like that. And luckily, you could take the trumpets off there. So you could put that in the lathe, and you could turn all the old brackets off it. And then we fitted Bentley back plates and Bentley brakes and Bentley hubs. The hubs were difficult. So we welded the Bentley hub to the Star hub, which, you know, desperate really, but I thought, let's get it done. Anyway, I drove it on those. It never gave any trouble, but I was scared to death that they could go wrong. So after the thing had been on the road a little while, we made completely new hubs. But luckily, because we'd already made it all up bodgy-wise, it was no problem to give it to my Tim's toolmaker and say to Tim, look, make us a couple of hubs. So they did, and they put the splines on it and everything. Beautiful. So that's the rear hubs. So then you've got the engine. Well, it has a subframe that the engine goes in, and we had to sort of make that, really, because we didn't have that. And then it swivels at the front. Well, I never realised the importance of that, really, so I just ran them down and joined them into the front cross member. But we found out about that, because when we fitted the engine, I put the engine in, and I put it in with die springs. All the mountings on the engine were put in with die springs, because with a bit of twist, it could break the bearers off. And being an aeroplane engine, that's all very, very light. So I put these die springs in, and they obviously work like a charm. But the actual pieces of metal that hold the subframe on, it actually broke the bolts off. So now they've all got die springs. So it's die springs on the engine, die springs on the mountings, never given any trouble. But I think we were lucky to get through that without breaking the engine mountings. So now we've got the twin coil Delco Remy thing from America, and I thought, well, that looked really good in the dash. So we altered the camshaft and run it out through the dash, and we made a thing. And I've got loads of pictures of this, so you'll be able to see all the pictures of that. So that more or less was the inspiration. So now we need a chassis. So my mate John Champ lives in the south of France. Everybody knows John Champ, and he knows everybody. We're knocking around, and I wanted a Peugeot chassis with a chassis plate, which would be a bonus, and a carcrete, which would be another bonus. Anyway, we go and see a bloke, and there is a chassis. Nothing like what we wanted, but very modifiable, as I've just said. So I re-profiled the front, cut the bit out, welded a bit in on the front to make the dumb irons look right, and where the thing goes along and over the back. So it took a lot of modifying, but luckily, as I say, it was a Peugeot, bits of it were Peugeot. And it had a lovely metal plate on the side of the chassis, written in French. I forget what it said, but something about special or something. Well, we'll take a photograph of that, and you can see that. So that was how it all started. Right, so now I'm collecting pictures, aren't I? I'm on the internet, I'm here, there and everywhere. Well, we all know that Indianapolis, all the cars that run at Indianapolis have a fabulous professional photograph taken. And in 1913, the cameras, you know, you would think, but they're fabulous. The pictures are fabulous. And one of the pictures was that one, of the winning car, number 16, at Indianapolis in 1913. And old Goose driving it. So that was a picture I really copied, you know. I mean, I looked at every little inch of that car to make the car. But obviously, they were fabulously successful. They won the French Grand Prix, they won that, you know, they were fabulous. But the only silly thing that happened, which isn't silly, but it seems silly to me, they sold the cars. Once they got going, they were selling the cars. Everybody bought one. You know, the Sunbeam's a copy of the engine. The Germans obviously bought one, and so you know, they just gave all the secrets away, which is good really, because it meant everybody had a go. But what a fabulous story, eh? 3 dodgy old blokes get together with a bloody bloke who could draw pictures and build a fabulous car that won everything and surprised everybody. And the other thing about the car was, of course, that it was very light compared to all the 14 litres and all that nonsense. And the tyres were desperate. So, you know, if you've got a car that weighs tons and the tyres are desperate, it's the worst thing in the world. You know, so they not only made this fabulous engine, but they built a light car that could run on the tyres that weren't very good and still have a success. Another good reason for building this car is because, as far as I can work out, and I've read a few things, including Bill Body's article in a 1968, where have all the Peugeots gone? And he concludes that there weren't any left. And then I was going on about people buying them. Well, apparently Royce bought one, this car, and after a few changes of owner, it finished up going over to banking.
At Brooklands.
At Brooklands. So it's a pity I didn't know that before, really, because I could have said, well, I was at Brooklands, I was poking around in the rubbish, and there was this car. That would have been a good story. But there's been a few of them good stories over the years. Like Jerry Marshall had an Aston Martin that he raced. And we were saying, well, what was the story behind that one, Jerry? And he said, well, you know, in the Italian job, when they threw that Aston Martin over the side, they never bothered to get it back, so we got it back, and that's the identity of this car. We all laughed, it was really funny. But anyway, so there's no cars left, which is very good, because nobody can get the ump, can they? Oh, he's copied my car, and blah, 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 so we ain't none of that. So that's good. So, obviously, as we're working through the car, we're doing all sorts of bits, you know, and the steering wheel, in the early pictures, you'll probably see the steering wheel, which was an old steering wheel I had, but we didn't use it. But I thought, well, we could make a pattern and have it cast, and what a load of drama, so we didn't want to do all that. So then again, in my research, I came across this picture of the Resta, is it? Yeah, the Resta. You can see it's fabricated. In fact, you can even see where it looks like brazed. So we made these spokes, and we had a rim off of an old lorry, and we made the steering wheel, and it's exactly like the Resta steering wheel. So again, that looks spot on, sort of thing. There was loads of things that we had to do. We converted it to dry sump, so we had to cut the bottom of the sump off. And I made a copper bottom, loads of annealing and bashing and grouch. It took me all weekend, actually. And then I tiger sealed it all round the edge, and then I put it on with little 2-way screws, hundreds of them. Because I thought that would look like it was done in the 20s, you know. And then obviously I made up some takeoffs, and that one goes to the back for the dry sump pump, and that one goes to the front. So they're the pickups. And then I put an angle in the sump like that, so the oil would run that way and the oil would run that way. And then there's a baffle goes in there, which was in the original car, and I just put that back. So that's how I did the sump. And of course, most people put the flywheel on the taper where the propeller would be. Well, I didn't want to do that, because 9 out of 10 times you hear about them coming loose. So what we did away with the thrust that goes in here, and I made a thin thrust that just has to take the pressure of the clutch. And then we made a boss that went on there, and then we had a flywheel off of a Mercedes lorry that bolted to the boss. But we got an original engine down there, the one that we got from America, and you can see all the thing, and I'll explain actually on the engine exactly how we did that. So there we are. So the next step really is I'm going to start taking the car to pieces because I'm not happy with the clutch, and I'm going to try and make it better, which would be a marvellous opportunity for us with the camera to say, oh, this is how we did this bit, this is how we did that bit, because it's all quite good really. I mean, but it evolved. It was the typical of our job, we made a bit and then we didn't use it, we ordered a bit and then we ordered it again, there was a lot of that. But the final thing has turned out to be pretty good, so it'll all be good. So that's what I'm going to do. Next week, when John comes back off holiday, we're going to get the wheels back on the Bugatti, get that out, get the Peugeot in, and then I'm going to take the bits of body off it, one thing and another. I'm going to have a look at the clutch, and while we're doing that, we can really go through the car, and Susie can use the camera and take pictures of the clutch and how we did it all, because it's quite good really. I'm quite proud of it really. So that's the next thing really.